Okay, sixth grade. This week we are going to be talking about rational numbers. You'll find that letter P. I want you working on 1, 2, 5, and 6. Rational numbers are numbers that can be written as a fraction. 27% is a rational number because it can be written as 27 over 100. The decimal point 71 is a rational number because it can be written as a fraction as 71 over 100. 3.5 can be written as a fraction as 7 over 2. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7 all over 2. And then 4.3 as a fraction would be 43 over 10. So any number that can be written in fraction form is going to be a rational number. Now, when we compare rational numbers, you can use cross multiplying with fractions. Right here, if I do 8 times 3, I get 24, and 4 times 7, which is 28. 24 is less than 28, so the less than sign would go in right there. Now, when I have negative numbers involved, negative 2/3 times a negative 5/6, 6 times 2 is a negative 12, and 3 times a negative 5 is a negative 15. Negative 12 is greater than negative 15, so that's the sign that would go in right there. Now, when we're going to add rational numbers, we have to remember our integer rules. Here, when I have negative 6.8 and I'm going to add 3.2, I'm adding two rational numbers with different signs, so I subtract. 6.8 minus 3.2, I get 3.6. 6.8 is the higher number, it's negative, so my answer is going to be negative. In the second example, I'm adding two rational numbers that are both negative, so I'm just going to add them and keep the sign. 12.2 plus 5.7 is 17.9, and it would remain negative because I'm adding two rational numbers with the same sign, so I add and keep the sign. This example, we have two fractions. One of them's a negative, one of them's a positive. So when we're adding rational numbers with different signs, we subtract. 7/8 minus 1/8 is going to be 6/8, which both can be divided by 2. You get 3/4. It's positive because your higher number is 7/8, and the answer would be 7/8. When we're multiplying and dividing rational numbers, here the amount of negatives involved is going to be how we determine what our answer is as far as positive or negative. In this first example, we have one negative, 3/5, negative 3/5 times 4/7. Numerator times numerator is 12. Denominator times denominator is 35. So I have a negative 12/35. In my second example, I'm dividing two negative numbers. So 2 is an even number. When even numbers are involved, even amount of negatives, your answer is positive. Negative 5.5 divided by a negative 5 is going to be a positive 1.1. Then when I have fractions, I again have to change them, or excuse me, when I have mixed numbers, I have to change them to improper fractions. Here I have a negative 2.5 times a negative 3 1/3. And when I change this to an improper fraction, it becomes a negative 5/2. And when I change this to an improper fraction, it becomes a negative 10/3. And I have two negatives involved in multiplying. Even number, answer is going to be positive. 5 times 10 is 50. 2 times 3 is 6. I can divide both those numbers by 2 to simplify to 25/3. and then I do 25 divided by 3 to get it back into a mixed number. Goes in there 8 times, that's 24, 1 left over. Again, a positive 8 1/3. And then one last example, when we're dividing with fractions, we want to keep, change, flip. Here I have one negative involved, so I know my answer is going to be negative. I keep my first fraction, 5/7. I change my division sign to multiplication, and I flip my -3 2/3 to a -3/2. Then I follow my multiplication rules. 5 times 3 would be 15. 7 times 2 is 14. And when I simplify that, it becomes 1 1/14. And again, it's negative because there is only one negative that is involved. So, okay, again, we will be doing section P, rational numbers, 1, 2, 5, and 6 this week.